Delighted to be joined by John Brennan. John is the Global Head of Engineering and Investments for Diageo. So, John, you're very welcome and Happy New Year.
Thanks very much, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Not at all, delighted. And John is here maybe to share with us the story of Diageo and I suppose both from the company and its the decarbonisation and indeed probably have a few questions for John as well on the perfect pint, but we'll get to that later on in the discussion if that's okay. So maybe John, we're maybe going to start off with Diageo, the company, what it is, an overview of it. For the audience, and indeed, it's because it's such a massive company, globally. So I think we have a video we're going to play, maybe to put some of that in context at the start. So maybe we'll roll the video and then we'll have a conversation after that.
Okay.
John, I think first of all that's a cool video. I never, we in IDEA talk about having the top 10 companies in this and the top 6 out of this, but you're number 1 in rum, in vodka, in whiskey, in liqueurs, across the globe.
Yep.
It's an incredible story, and we haven't even mentioned Guinness. Yeah.
So I hope you're not too thirsty after all of that, and I advise you all to stick with the water. But so Diageo has an NSV of about 20 billion pounds. It has an operating profit of about 6 billion. So we're a very profitable company with high net margins. We're a total beverage alcohol company, so we span kind of all of the scotches, the vodkas, Captain, and then in Ireland we'd be best known for, let's say, Guinness and Baileys. There are two kind of biggest products. I think 200 brands we have, and those brands, many of them are over kind of 250 years old. So we're a very long-lived company. In Ireland we've invested about 500 million pounds in the last kind of 4 to 5 years. We've a turnover here of about 1.7 billion, 1.4 in the Republic, and we're a highly profitable company.
Yeah, and it was also interesting as well is that the increase in your revenue post-COVID. So it's hard to beat a pandemic, isn't it?
Yeah, that was unusual, and it was a surprise. So you think the best laid plans, you think everybody would see that coming. We didn't. We were very actually worried when it came to COVID. We got a spike. Everybody thought that spike would continue. Of course, nothing continues in life. And the last year, we've had a reduction in sales. Reduction in sales down 2%. But we probably need to come back to go back up again.
Yeah.
But still 36% ahead of where we were.
No, it's incredible, and and maybe when we think of Diageo, we probably don't think of it in that context in terms of the global brand, the leadership that you have, and and it's out of Ireland effectively, as an Irish company, and so it's incredible,
Yeah. So my day starts in the morning with China, and then it goes to kind of India, to Turkey, to Africa, to Scotland, kind of Ireland, to America, Mexico. Like we do span the globe, both from a production point of view and from a sales point of view. So we have 132 production sites globally, and we have to turn all of them sustainable over the next, up to 2030.
Yeah, that's an incredible network, and for us here to think about that, we work with clients, large clients wouldn't have that sort of broad of a network, 132 locations. It's massive. So maybe just go back and maybe bring it back locally for a moment then, because in terms of, and of course, as I said, when I think, or most people think of Diageo, you think of St. James's Gate, and you really think of, if you want to call it, the social history that is St. James's Gate and the industrial institution that it was. And I think, I hope our chairman doesn't mind me saying this, but we were just chatting. He says, like, some people went there to put on a stone of weight actually when they were doing their audits, because you fed them so well as well during that. But it has that sort of deep heritage and history in Ireland, and obviously the Guinness family were very generous in terms of what they've done as well during that piece. But maybe can you share from Diageo in respect to ESG and decarbonisation of St. James's Gate, because it's a site that's been there for 100 plus years.
Yeah, 265.
There we go.
How would I put it? I think we're very proud of Guinness. My first job as an engineer was in Guinness Dublin, and after that I travelled the world. But I have very, very strong links to the brand heritage. We've always been leading, I think, in corporate social responsibility, and in Diageo we have an ESG program called Spirit of Progress. So it runs through the gamut of the UN 17 goals, and for climate change, for water, for inclusion and diversity. So all of those are underpinned, and we don't see that as a cost. We see that as one of our growth drivers. We're a sales and marketing company primarily, and our consumers expect us to be leading when it comes to ESG and when it comes to climate change, and we're responding to them through that. So we've committed that by 2030 we'll be net zero carbon, and from a water point of view we'll reduce our water footprint by 30% globally. That doesn't come easily, but that is, that's the type of business and the type of company that Diageo is.
And it doesn't come without investment. So I think that's 100 million. Is it that you're investing in decarbonisation on the site?
So again, I think we're very proud of that we've managed to get £100 million worth of investment for the Diageo site in Dublin. In total, we'll spend £1.2 billion in getting to be carbon zero globally. We've 41 tonnes of our carbon sits here in Dublin, and that's about 10% of our total carbon footprint. So it's a really, really big deal for Diageo and Ireland to get to net carbon zero in Dublin. We've been working on that plan for probably 4 or 5 years. It's a difficult kind of brownfield site. So to figure out how to actually get to net carbon is quite tricky.
Yeah. And so you said 1.2 billion.
Yeah.
That's across the entire network.
That's across the entire network. We invest about £1.4 billion every year, and between 10 and 15% of our investment is going into sustainability over the next kind of, well, it has been since 2020.
Yeah. That's an incredible commitment, of resource, human and capital, to do that as well. And I suppose when you think about that, I think you have a comment about from grain to glass is your catchphrase. Is that correct? Around decarbonisation, so you're looking at it from the entire.
Yeah. So we got to look from the grain. So farmers. So we're doing regenerative farming. We're trying to reduce fertilizers, we're trying to reduce water, so we're partnering with people to do that. When we deliver your pints to the pub, we're doing that with electric vehicles. When we're in the pub, we're working with the SEAI to try and make those pubs more carbon efficient. So we try and work through the full gamut from grain to glass.
That's incredible, and that's so it's just like we're dealing with companies in terms of their scope 1, 2, and 3. This is the same you're doing, across the entire supply chain, as you say, starting from from when you harvest, or actually when you sow the raw material, to when you or I or members here actually in the room turn up to buy your product and consume your product?
Yeah, so like most companies, our scope 1 and 2 is about 10% of our total carbon load, and the scope 3 is where all the big carbon is. So we've committed to trying to reduce that by 2030 by 30%. Now that is a huge undertaking, because we have to move the industry to do that. So for example, when I'm building a plant, and let's say we're building a plant in Mexico, and we're using a company to do that, we have to explain to them that they're going to have to be more carbon efficient in how they build that plant. And that's new to them. That's not, we're not coming, it's not every single business is asking for that. And, so we have to get into their boardrooms and kind of make sure that they will work with us in partnership in doing that.
Excellent. And can I just ask then, because I think you might have a video to show on St. James's Gate as well, but, but before we just show that, in terms of decarbonising a site that's 260 years, actually, where do you start? Like at a practical level, what does that look like?
I'll try and make this as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So for scope 1, that's gas and it's fuel. Okay. So there's 4 things that you can do with that. You can have a biogas, you can have a biomass, or you can have a biofuel, right? Or you can change that to electricity. So you can put in an electric boiler and you can produce steam from that. They're only the 4 things you can do. Now, the technologies within that are all different and more efficient. So then we'll say electricity is very expensive. Okay, compared to gas or compared to a fuel, right? Electricity is really expensive to run. So you can do it fairly cheaply, but your OPEX costs go up, right? So really you can't. So what you have to do is then you have to reduce the load of your full site. So if you were running at 100 megajoules per hectoliter, right, you got to get that down to about 40 or 50 before you even start. So you have to be doing energy efficiency on the site. And then when you do want to move to electricity, you now haven't got enough power on the site to do it. So we have 8.5 megawatts in St. James's Gate. We need 23. So then we have to go and talk to DSB and partner up to DSB to get 110 kV substation in, and that takes 4 years. So these are long-term kind of investments, and that costs the ESB 100 million. These aren't cheap kind of pieces of kit to put in. And you've got to go through the planning permission and all of those. So these are long term. You can't do this in a year. You can't do it in 2 years. You've got to do it over a decade.
It's a sustained commitment over a long period. And I think the one thing we know about Diageo and Guinness, sustained commitment over long periods.
We think we'll be around for a long time.
Yeah, it's nothing new in your world. I think you have a video to show, have you? And so we might just play that for a moment if that's okay.
The investment of €100 million into the decarbonisation of St. James's Gate Brewery, which will allow us to transform our energy and water use at this historic site and secure Dublin as the home of Guinness for many generations to come.
What you're proving here today with Diageo, a major global brand, a massive employer in this country, is we can do more than one thing at a time. It is entirely possible to invest in business, future-proof your business, and do what is right for the planet. And I really, really want to thank you in Diageo for your leadership in relation to this.
At the heart of the plan for St. James's Gate is a programme of energy efficiency to reduce our thermal requirements. And at the centre of the site we will build a utilities hub powered by renewable energy.
Diageo is committed to fully decarbonise all of our operations globally by 2030. In Ireland, we are planning to fully decarbonise our St. James's Gate brewery and further improve our water efficiency to be one of the most water efficient breweries in the world.
This is a very exciting investment for such an iconic brand like Diageo. You know, net zero by 2030 is very exciting. So it does show and demonstrate the progress that can be made when you're on a sustainable path, and it will add huge value right across our economy and more high quality jobs as well.
Way before anyone else did, we put in our own power plant that first used coal, and then in the 80s we converted that into a combined heat and power plant using gas, which was again one of the most efficient of its time. So this is just the next iteration in that. We're delighted we finally landed on what is the right solution for James's Gate.
And I suppose what that demonstrates is that it is a journey. You know, it's a journey that, you know, technology changes. You know, during that period, you've done things in the past. You've now had to renew those, and you know, your new hub and so forth. So this is a journey that actually requires long-term commitment.
Yeah. So this has been really efficient with kind of all of the heat inputs that are on your site. So, you know, historically, you know, people would have put in kind of you know, refrigeration plants, and they would have cooled things down, and that they would have let the heat kind of evaporate. You know, put in heat pumps. You capture all of that heat. We put in a previous speaker was talking about anaerobic plants. So we're going to build an anaerobic plant in the middle of our site. From that, we can collect biogas from it, and we'll get that to run our boilers. We'll put in new technology for our kettles. We put in mechanical vapor recompression, which is really efficient. It's like it's like your kettle. So from your kettle, you take the steam out of it. We take that steam back, and we kind of keep it in a loop. So it's zero energy, you know, once you get it started. So it's all those new technologies that we'll be applying, you know, to an old solution to produce beer.
Yeah. Yeah, and ultimately, at the end of the day, what you're doing is, as you're correct, you still have to produce your products, right? So that's it. Maybe we'll just change tack for a moment and maybe move from a site that's 200 years plus to your new site, which you're developing, obviously. So you might just maybe share what your plans is. You have a new 200 million brewery plan for Kildare. Yeah, some might say your natural, spiritual home.
Natural and spiritual home.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the IDA as well, because they supported us in sourcing that land out in Little Connell. So we bought 58 acres out in Little Connell. We had a bit of problem getting planning permission. I don't know if anybody might have seen that throughout the years.
We were watching it, all right, yeah.
So we went to An Bord Pleanála, and then we, you know, there was. You know, it just took us a while, let's put it that way. We won't go any further. But it means we're about 2 years behind in actually building that plant. You know, we had kind of allocated about 6 months to, you know, for planning permission. It took us over 2 years. We didn't do nothing at the time, so we bought all of the equipment. So we have all that equipment now sitting on site, and we're building a 1 million hectoliter brewery out there, and that'll be the home for, you know, future expansions in, you know, for Diageo brands. I wouldn't just say beer, I say Diageo brands. That's where we will probably locate them.
Excellent. I think we have a clip to show us sort of the progress on site as well. So we might just show that for the audience as well.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal progress actually.
Yeah. certainly is. You know, it's impressive to see it, and you know, and again, you mentioned the fact that, you know, it through partnership with IDA, the site, you know, became a reality. And I just want to maybe acknowledge the work of our property team here who acquired it, and obviously we're delighted that, you know, it's been put to use from your perspective. On that site, then, I suppose, you know, given the opportunity that has greenfield, you know, what's going to be uniquely new in that from a technology or sustainability perspective, or indeed maybe a flexibility perspective?
Yeah, so this will be the most energy efficient and water efficient brewery in the world.
In the world?
Yeah, so we will have 1.3 litres per litre on water usage. Now, if you go around globally, you know, 3.5 to 2 is you know, the best you can do. So, and on energy, a standard brewery would be about 100 megajoules per hectoliter. A good brewery would be about 60 megajoules per hectare, and this will be less than 30. Okay, so one of the good things actually about having having a judicial review was that we had time.
Because I've never heard those words before, but anyway, we go with it. Yeah.
but we did go back actually, and we totally changed the our energy design. So we have no steam on this site. So we have superheated water at 130 degrees. We have, and that's our energy store. So, you know, you hear about battery storage. Well, this is a water energy storage system, and we use that we use that energy buffer to get rid of all of our peaks, and we have heat pumps from all of our refrigerated. We have our AD plant. We have our biogas, and on water, then we take the stream from the AD, and we put it through a membrane RO system, and then we have separated water systems on the site. So we have virgin water for the product, but all of our service waters is all reprocessed water. All of our push-outs is all reprocessed water, and that allows you to get down. You can never get lower than 1. You know, because you need 1, because you need to drink your pint. Yeah. You know, but like to get down, so we have 0.3, kind of 30% wastage, if you like. Very hard to get lower than that.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you how the use of technology and multiple technologies is driving the sort of efficiency. And as you say, that even that period from you entered your planning process to coming out of it, the design change actually could happen and change so quickly in let's call it a 24-month period. So
and for every other kind of, so when we do Scotch now, or when we do, you know, any other products, we take those learnings from the utilities, you know, because really you have to have combined utilities and process. Before, when you were designing a plant, you design the process, you design the utilities. You can't do that anymore. Yeah. You have to design them at the same time, and they have to mesh.
Okay, very good. A final question before I close maybe is, what's next on Diageo's journey for sustainability?
Oh, I think our cup overflows. We're 50% through. It's 2025. We've 30% reduction in carbon to date. We have 15% reduction in water, which is, so we're 50% there on our water targets. We're kind of 35% there, more or less, on our carbon. We have a lot of investments to make. We have most of the master planning done for all of that, from an engineering point of view. Some of the investments you can't do straight away, because, let's say, in Scotland and Cameron Bridge, we have to get a new electrical supply. That electrical supply, you know, from Scottish Power, that takes 2.5 years for us to get that in place. So, but we have to do all of the work now, you know, pay all of the money to get those kind of electrical loads kind of in, and then, you know, across the world we're putting in biomass, we're putting in kind of biofuels, we're putting in all the technologies that are available to us. You know, so from China literally to Mexico, we're doing that on a daily basis.
Across an international basis. John, I probably have the most important question to last, right? And I think you mentioned about this and I think it's a question that many people have asked me to put to you. How do you actually get that perfect pint of Guinness? Number one. And secondly then is, how do you actually split the G? Because that's very important.
Yeah. Well, for the first one, all Guinness pints are perfect.
Okay, right, there you go, right?
Yeah, and it's my favourite drink. And on splitting the G, I've been with Diageo now for, I think, 30 years, 34 years actually. And I think my days of splitting the G might be gone, but I have done it in the past.
It's a young person's game as well.
It's a young person's game.
Okay,
yeah.
right. Well, that's fair enough. Or maybe just more practice, whatever goes, right? So,
Maybe.
John, look, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming and sharing the story of Diageo. You know, the scale of what of the organisation that it is, and where Ireland is actually leading that, and to think of what you're doing in St James's Gate, and indeed the fact that, you know, your site in Kildare actually will be world leading in terms of it as well. I think that's really incredible. So just to compliment you and your team and all of the team in Diageo for your leadership as well, I suppose it's something we certainly can lean on and learn from as well. So if you could show your appreciation for John, folks. Thank you.
Okay.